Use the agenda on the wall.
Yep. On the bench, actually.
What's that?
On the bench.
Oh. All right, sorry about that. Ready, Madam Clerk? Mm-hmm. All right, it being time, I now call the Appointments Committee meeting of the Gardner City Council. It's Monday, December 4th, 2023 meeting to order. I'd like the record to reflect that Chair Tyros, Councilor Walsh, and Councilor Mack are present in addition to Mayor Nicholson. This evening we have one person with 2 appointments, so I would offer to take the item 11084 first, and then move on to the other items on our agenda. 11084, a measure confirming the mayor's appointment of David Hackett to the position of Disability Commission member for a term expiring October 30th, 2026. Report from the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a reappointment. Mr. Hackett has served on this commission for several years. He is someone who, there are certain things that the ordinance requires of the Disability Commission for membership. Either someone who has a disability themselves, as an immediate family member of a disability, or a representative of the city from either an appointed or elected official. Mr. Hackett has a mobility disability, so he brings that perspective to the commission as someone who's confined to a wheelchair. He lives across the street over at the Banal House, and has been an active member of this commission while it was in full quorum. For a while, we just didn't have a quorum of members. One member passed away, some other members resigned. With the appointments that we recently did, and now adding Mr. Hackett back up, and then Director Pond and everyone else who's been up here today, this will bring us back to at least a quorumable membership of the Disability Commission that we can have meetings again. But until then, we just didn't have the membership to be able to do such.
Thank you. Councilor Walsh.
I have no questions.
Councilor Mack.
I have no questions. I'm just glad that this is going to be able to start meeting again, and I've been looking forward to this, so thank you.
No. Thank you. And my only question is, Mr. Mayor, the Disability Commission, what does this composition look like, and are there still open roles that you wish to fill on?
I'd have to see on the ordinances how many people there. I know I submitted that in the packet this evening. There may be 1 or 2.
There's one.
There is one left over. So we'll be actively seeking. I do plan to address some of those vacancies that we have when we get later on in the agenda as well.
Fantastic. Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we confirm, or we recommend the appointment of David Hackett to the position of Disability Commission member to the full council.
Second the motion.
Motion made by Councilor Mack, second by Councilor Walsh to recommend the mayor's appointment. Is there discussion? All those in favor, aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion passes. Let's stay on the topic of Disability Commission. Item 11085, a measure confirming the mayor's appointment of Deborah Pond to the position of Disability Commission member for a term expiring October 30th, 2026. Report from the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a reappointment as well to the Disability Commission as part of Director Pond's job description. She serves as the city's ADA coordinator for making sure all things are in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Whereas the ordinance has a provision that says either an elected or appointed official shall serve on the Disability Commission. She has served on this role since her initial hire in 2002, and this is a reappointment to her role in that capacity.
Thank you. Director Pond will allow you to make a comment if you wish on the appointment.
I've just been involved with the commission. It is actually part of my job description that I be a member of the commission. I've served in the clerk's role for a vast majority of the time that I've been on the commission, and I'm looking forward to reconvening with some new individuals, and we'll miss some of those who are not returning.
Absolutely. Councilor Mack.
I have nothing.
Councilor Walsh.
I appreciate the fact that you've served on this particular commission for 21 years. How long has it been since you've been able to have a quorum? Has it been a while?
So unfortunately, when COVID hit, I reached out to the commission as the clerk to see if we could in fact meet via Zoom, and many of the members did not have that capability, so we could not meet. So We haven't met since January of 2020. Once some of those restrictions lifted and I reached out to see, who wanted to remain on the commission because terms had expired. We had, again, a member who had passed away and 2 other members who had significant health issues in and out of the hospital who decided not to return to the commission, so.
So with Mr. Hackett's, assuming Mr. Hackett's appointment is confirmed, and with you remaining a member in your capacity as Human Resource Director, that would permit a resumption of meetings and allow a quorum?
Yes, I believe Ann Hurst was already reappointed, and then I believe there were 2 new members who were sent, but I haven't seen their appointments come through my office yet, so once they've come in and been sworn in, we can reach out and schedule a meeting, and then basically vote people into the various positions, chairperson, because chairperson is one of the individuals who didn't return, clerk, and then treasurer.
Thank you, I have nothing else.
Director, my question is in relation to with the reconstitution of the committee. Are there any priorities that you have front of mind for Disability Commission now that they've gotten back together, or will be?
Any additional parties or any issues?
Just any priorities for the commission as you guys get back together and start work again?
I think obviously bringing the new members up to speed on things we've handled previously, addressing other issues that were kind of waiting. I believe there have been a couple of complaints that have come forth about scooters and flower pots on the sidewalk, and we certainly will discuss them and discuss some of the actions that have been taken to address some of those concerns. And then, there's generally some projects and issues that as a group we look at and try to address a lot with handicap parking and things of that nature.
Thank you. Entertain a motion.
I move that we recommend confirmation of the appointment.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Walsh, second by Councilor Mack to recommend the mayor's appointment. Is there discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion passes. Item 11083, a measure confirming the mayor's appointment of Deborah Pond to the position of Human Resource Director for a term expiring October 31st, 2026. Report from the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a reappointment as well. Director Pond has served in this capacity since 2002, since she was first appointed by Mayor Dan Kelly. Since then, the role has certainly grown, not only with the number of employees that have been undertaken by the role, but also the duties that have been undertaken as the world has changed a lot since 2002. Coming from a background in the legal field, that has helped in the drafting of certain documents when it comes to union negotiations, when it comes to dealing with the employees and working with the law department on those matters. Director Pond has been helpful to me in my role in my 3 years here as mayor since the last time I put forward her appointment, and I'm happy to put her forward again.
Fantastic. Director Pond.
I thoroughly enjoy my job here. I find it challenging every day. There are certainly frustrations along the way. Can come into the office with a well thought out plan to attack certain things, and I can have a department head walk in with a very serious employee issue that I need to deal with or something along those lines. So it's never the same day, so it certainly makes it interesting. I know there are some things that I have in the queue that I'm working on and trying to get forward. Unfortunately, there are other priorities that have come into play. Obviously, health insurance renewals and some recent changes that we're doing with the health insurance, optional insurance, the hiring and firing process, union negotiations, all of that needs to go forward before other things. And obviously, any serious employee issues need to be addressed firsthand. I have a lot of goals that I want to achieve in the department. I think there are definitely some things that we can do in the future. I've had some staffing issues over the past couple of years just by virtue of changes and some health issues with one of my staff people. I believe that my staff have kind of settled now, and I can start shifting some of the responsibilities over and focus on the things that really require my type of attention.
Mr. Chairman, I forgot to mention, Director Pond in this capacity also, as one of the things the previous administration did, also serves as the director of the pool facility, so she oversees the operations of the outdoor pool, and if someone breaks into the indoor pool, she gets the call to make sure that the call gets sent in to get the structure secured. Again, hopefully we won't have to worry about that come the next couple months, but we'll have the outdoor pool and the lifeguards and the chlorine and everything else that comes with that duties as well. I meant to mention that earlier too. Thank you.
Absolutely. Councilor Walsh?
Yes, I just noticed that we received, I believe everybody received a lengthy, I think, 4-page summary of, from Director Pond outlining the duties, responsibilities, performance of those duties over the course of the last several years. I can personally respond to the issues that arose when the COVID epidemic hit. I happened to be serving as acting mayor at the time. There were extremely difficult challenges and decisions that needed to be made in order to maintain services of the city and to deal with people's safety, both the public and employees. Director Pond was instrumental in achieving a very favorable response to both of those challenges. And that continued during the course of it. I believe it as continuing to be a member even after I stepped down as acting mayor, and well as stepped down as council president, that effectiveness continued until the new mayor was elected. So I can personally vouch for their performance duties during that period of time, and overall during the course of time that director has been served in the human resource director capacity, going back to the early 2000s. That's all I have. The other thing I'd have is that we have this, I would like, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, that the email that we all received dated today from Ms. Pond be entered as part of the record of this meeting.
Absolutely agree.
Do you have that, Madam Clerk? Could you?
We'll provide that. after.
You have it as well?
Yep.
Okay, could you just hand it to the
Sure.
secretary? That's all I have at this time.
Councilor Mack?
First, can I just ask, Ms. Pond, what prompted us to receive the letter today as the meeting notice went out on November 21st? I'm just wondering what prompted it to have it the day of the meeting, because it was, I'm very lucky that I got to read it before I got here today, because I was not available for most of the day.
It's something that I thought about all weekend. You know, I've never been a department head who's 100% sure that I'm going to walk in here every 3 years and be reappointed. I think there are things I can always do better. And I guess I'm not overly confident or cocky, for a lack of a better term, as to what I'm going to be looking at. There are a lot of new counselors on the council, so I just, like I said, I thought about it a lot over the weekend. Then I felt it'd be a good opportunity, and especially because I don't see a lot of the faces. A lot of people don't come to my office, and I had also heard that there were some concerns with my appointment, and I wanted to make sure that I let everybody know kind of what I've been doing for the past 4 years.
Did this letter go to the entire council or just to the appointments committee?
To the entire council.
It did go to the entire council, okay. All right. I personally have hesitations, and I'm going to outline why I have hesitations about this reappointment. I recognize that as Human Resource Director, that I feel that the position should have the utmost confidentiality about the information about city employees and their records. I actually have firsthand experienced a breach of confidentiality with Ms. Pond sharing information about another city employee with me, and it just made me very concerned because I think this is, if not the most important, this should be the most trusted department in the city for the employees, and it should also be the most welcoming department for new city employees. I don't say this lightly because as a former employee, and as a city council, I should not be privy to anybody else's information. And I think that the employees' benefits and their personal situations or whatever it should be, doesn't belong outside your office. The other concern I have is that this position works for the mayor. There has been an ordinance that I have been waiting to have up for reconsideration back to the council, and I'm not sure if it's been tied up in your office or what the issue is, but that's my understanding. So it's a salary ordinance based on education for 3 positions, department head positions. So that was a concern. But the other thing is, like the salary survey that went out, the council voted for the salary survey for all non-union employees. Then it was brought to my attention in June that not all the school employees were non-union were part of that. So when I read your letter today, and correct me if I'm wrong, that some of that information is still being gathered. And that was something that I had pointed out to the mayor as soon as I knew, because all along I didn't think that we said that there was going to be anybody excluded. And the other thing in your letter, you talk about elected positions information was requested, but I'm just wondering who that was sent to and if I could have more information about that. So as a whole, I'd love to hear from you because I do have reservations about reappointment, especially based on the privacy concerns I have about the department.
Okay, so first and foremost, with regards to that, it's something I guess I would request to discuss with you privately, obviously, because I wouldn't want it discussed in this particular forum because I don't recall ever discussing something of I keep things very confidential. In fact, it's something that I'm very clear with my employees that we are not ever to share confidential information outside of my office. And a lot of times they're not even privy to things because it's that confidential. As far as the ordinance goes, I know I'm in the process of reviewing a number of different ordinances, personnel ordinances that will, per the request of the mayor, and I'm presuming that one's included in it.
It must be because it's been something I think I've repeatedly asked for over the past year.
So the entire thing is going to go up, and there's a lot of changes and a lot of adjustments. And as I indicated, once those adjustments come up to the council and they're approved or disapproved, whatever the end result is, those things will then be put into an updated City of Gardner employee handbook. So like I said, I'm presuming it's in that mixture of ordinances and will come up all together. As far as the salary ordinance goes, when I first sent that out, I sent it out to the positions I was told to send it out to. I was later told that there were additional school department positions. I had to reach back out and figure out what those were. I have them. I had to get job descriptions and then individuals in those positions. But as I was talking with our vendor, it was clear that the audience we would be sending things out to get salary information from were going to be 2 different groups. So I've had to split that request. And so we've got the city part done. We're now focusing on the school department part to get that done. So they'll come up as 2 different studies. In addition, when we first went out and asked for external wage information, we didn't get a great response. I had to go back out and get that. I will say that as much as this is certainly a priority from a personal standpoint, as my position is obviously part of the salary study, it is also, unfortunately, I know it's important to the council and to other employees, but there have been other things that have had to take priority over it. And it has been a lot of work. Scheduling things, reviewing things, getting things attached, talking with the vendor, reviewing the grading schedule with the mayor. It's not just a simple task, unfortunately. With regards to the elected officials, the mayor had just asked me if I, could go out and I asked you, are you just looking for kind of a simple, mayors, councilors, select persons type of, what are people getting in what communities? He said, yes, I have a group called the Mass Municipal Personnel Association. I sent a request out, which is something we often do with each other, looking for information forms, policies, information of that nature. And I got a pretty quick response within a week of, this is what our selectmen make, this is what our councils make, this is what our mayors make. So I'm going to give it another week and see, how much more information I get. And then I'll be providing that document to the mayor so that he can share it with the council.
If I could just add in there to Chapter 171, which is the personnel ordinance. does have several sections that are outdated or no longer looked at. We have a stipend in the ordinances right now if a DPW worker has to use Dynamite for over 4 hours. So things like that we're reviewing there. I plan to put up, all those revisions up in the upcoming term together. But I do, recall, Council, that is something you brought up, I believe a year ago, to my office when we had those conversations. So I understand what you're saying with that one, but that will be put forward with the full packet that goes forward. And then when the City Council voted on the elected official compensation ordinance last year, one of the things that got brought up was for the next time that this gets brought up, when the ordinances allow it in the February of the odd number year, unless that gets changed later on, having some type of data to back up where that's coming from, rather than just going 2% back to the first year. So that was the information that we begun to gather for that, that we talked about when that was brought up last time. Just to clarify that. That's
I appreciate the clarification, because it was really, it just said, I asked elected, so I didn't know if it was in other communities, committees, or within the city.
Understood.
That's why I was asking for clarification for that. But I do appreciate that clarification, and because, it is something that has been important. I have no further questions at this time.
Go ahead. I just had a follow-up question, but I don't want to.
Oh, we'll stay on the topic then, go ahead.
So the information to be requested about salaries for elected officials, that was not directed toward us, it was directed toward other communities to provide information and data to provide to the Finance Committee in an odd-numbered year, which is tasked with the job of recommending possible changes in compensation for the mayor and for the city council. Am I?
That is correct, Council.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understood that. Thank you. That's all.
Absolutely. So Director Pond, I come to this meeting with more questions and concerns than I have with more other appointments. I believe as chair of this committee, the mayor has appointed 111 individuals, and I think this may be the first one that the mayor and I have a disagreement on. If you don't mind, I'd like to use the letter that you provided earlier today to go through some of my questions. Mine's 6 pages. I don't know if that has a difference, but we'll provide it to the clerk after, certainly.
Oh, you gave away mine.
My font was very small.
You start off your letter saying, the work that was done during COVID above and beyond your job description. I think that goes without saying. That was a particularly problematic time, and I thank you for stepping up for the city in that moment. I think there's many individuals in the public and private sector that just did amazing work, and even if their job wasn't directly affected by COVID, or it was directly affected through the loss of their employment, it was a tough time for everyone. So I think that goes without saying. That should be thanked and acknowledged. On the second page, you bring up the investigation into the police department that occurred during the last quarter of 2020. Prior to the vote of no confidence, do you feel like your department had the proper channels, the proper procedures to handle any, if at all, complaints that the officers had that led them to bring 4 votes of no confidence into the leadership of the department?
There were complaints that came into my office, and as the mayor is the appointing authority for that department, I kept him apprised of what was coming into the office, the things that needed to be addressed, and the concerns that were coming forward. There were initial complaints that I brought to the department head to be addressed, as well as they were at that level at that particular point in time, and there were concerns. And I don't want to get really too deeply into the investigation because a lot of that report is confidential.
Agreed.
But I believe my office did what it needed to do as the information was brought forth with regards to the administration over there, and I kept the mayor apprised of things as I was apprised of them.
Thank you for that. And were there any, as an outcome of that investigation, were there any changes to the personnel department's policies or procedures to help potentially remediate future issues of that nature?
Unfortunately, I don't believe it had to do with procedure, and sometimes it's just the individuals in the roles and whether or not they're willing to work collaboratively to address things. Other departments I have a very good working relationship with, and we work through things and talk through things and try to address various employee issues, and I think it's all about the communication.
Very good. Additionally, you mentioned that there were 2 director vacancies that required you to step in and oversee those departments for employee matters. I suppose that's pretty standard that an HR director would step in to kind of manage in the interim while attempting to find a new director.
Yes, it's not over and above. It was more of my letting the council know kind of what I had going on at that particular point in time. Sometimes those positions are harder to fill and take a little bit longer. Other times it's, you know, a matter of you might have an assistant in that department that can, an assistant director who can take care of things. In these particular instances, we had a pretty new assistant director, and she did handle some things, but when it came to the payroll and employee benefit time and things of that nature, I oversaw it for one particular department. And then the other department, we had an acting commissioner, so I helped facilitate things, but didn't oversee the department made its own decisions. I don't want to have anything to do with that, but as far as supporting the personnel in the department, I was doing that.
Because understanding departments are different, their interactions with the community, other departments. Does your office have succession planning workshops or advice for department heads, or is that managed within the departments themselves?
Again, it's the way we're structured. There are very few departments that have that second in command. A lot of times, the expectation is that that's going to be the next role, and police department obviously has a deputy chief. Fire department has a captain. DPW has some other positions, not necessarily. We did have an assistant director position, but that seemed very difficult to fill. A couple of other, treasurer, auditor, have an assistant, city clerk does. Most other departments don't necessarily have that second in command. You hope, as you have different employees in the department who kind of express an interest, desire, and ability to potentially, be that next in line, make sure they get the training that they need, and stay in touch with the department head about what things we can offer that employee.
Thank you. The next section of your letter has your work on union negotiations, saying that since 2020 you've been involved in 8 different unions. Currently 2 union contracts remain to be settled. 1 is near completion, and then there's another one coming down the pipeline.
It's a new union.
Another union.
It's the inspectors, Counselor. It's the 2 local inspector positions, the electrical inspector, the plumbing and gas inspector, the health inspector, and the assistant director of public health.
And Director Pond, would you?
That's a new union.
Yeah, they just recently.
Who's representing?
The Teamsters.
Thank you. Excuse me for interrupting.
That's a good question. So in your 21 or 22, 21 years of experience, is this a new trend? Is there a movement towards unionizing at the municipal level, or is it just kind of local to this area that we're finding this?
I'm not sure municipal level as a whole. It's not something I've actually reached out and inquired about. I think sometimes in this particular instance, the formation of the ACO union had more to do with the department per se. Again, something I don't feel comfortable talking about.
Understood.
And the inspectors, I believe, is monetarily driven. They believe that, from what I've been told by the employees who are looking at unionizing, that it would bring them better compensation if they unionize.
And I ask these questions because it is something that, as a counselor, I've observed that union negotiations take a long time. I believe there was an instance in FY20 where the union representing our local firefighters had, I believe it went on 2 years union negotiations, and it put the city in a position where we were playing catch up with the firefighters at such a rate that everyone else's cost of living adjustment seemed minuscule because we were giving the firefighters, you know, a multitude of cost of living adjustments. Do you think your office is equipped to handle these union negotiations and employment relations?
So first and foremost, I am not the one who approves the proposals. I facilitate the process. So I will work with the mayor and the respective department heads about things we may want to change, proposals we want to make, different financial incentives, things of that nature. I will draft the proposals. I participate in the negotiations, but I do not conduct the negotiations. Once decisions have been made, I will then draft the MOA for approval. That particular contract was very difficult. It was involving the ambulance as well. There was a lot of contention between the union and then mayor. Previous mayor. Some of those negotiations were very uncomfortable. Ultimately, we unfortunately, after Mayor Hawk left, I ended up having to go to Boston with Attorney Flick to actually go in front of the Labor Relations Board, and they basically determined what we were going to have to provide in that contract because we couldn't reach an agreement. And again, I'm not the decision maker. I just try to facilitate things. I do try to be creative. I will brainstorm with the mayor and, you know, what if we do this? What if we do this? You know, if we try to move things along. I believe we've recently done that with the ACO union, which I'm hoping will be ratified later this week, so that you're not necessarily looking at straight percentage increases, but by trying to be creative and providing the employees with different incentives. But at the end of the day, I don't get to actually make the decisions.
Understood. It is a central role, I believe you play from your report.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to throw in there real quick. When I was first elected into office and sworn in, I was the one who directed the director to go for 1-year contracts with our unions who were up at that time, just because it was right in the middle of COVID. We were on a 1/12 budget at the time. We didn't know what our revenue was going to be as a result of the pandemic. So that was a decision I made. I feel like we've been negotiating ever since because all the staggered contracts are now together because of that, but we're working on getting them back on their schedule that they should be on, and then the 2 new unions formed, and they had their full 3-year contracts too. But I just want to explain why it seems like we're constantly in the negotiation realm was because there were those 4 unions that I made the decision when I came in, because we didn't know what was going to happen after we passed the budget in November, when we normally pass it in June for those couple of items. But thank you for that.
May I just add something, only because I have something to offer, particularly with respect to the firefighters contract from 2000. That was dumped into my lap as I assumed the job of acting mayor. And I was told that I was obligated to submit money orders to fund the proposed agreements that had been negotiated or imposed by the Labor Relations Office. I question whether the acting mayor had that authority, given its limited authority of the acting mayor to deal with matters that are not admitting of delay, as the language goes. I felt I didn't. I felt that I would be making a decision that the elected mayor should make. But through a process of obtaining opinions, short of litigation, to make that determination, it was found that I did have that authority, and that I had the obligation to submit the money order as the acting mayor, and so I did. I was unhappy about it. I thought it was something that really should have been a decision made by an elected mayor, but that's how it went down. But it was a very difficult and extended and heated process as it came to me, and it was at the height of that. So thank you.
Can
I just want
ask
to
a
add that.
follow-up? So my follow-up to that negotiations, if you're present at the negotiations, for example, we'll just use fire department, who is there with you on behalf of the city doing the actual negotiating?
Mayor.
The mayor.
Sometimes the city solicitor is also present if the union also brings counsel. A lot of times we're just meeting with the local union reps, but the mayor is the one.
So in that position, the mayor had left the position. So neither acting mayor or,
We weren't negotiating
you weren't
anymore.
negotiating at that point, you were done. Okay, thank you.
We had gone as far as we could go.
Process had been completed
Yeah,
before
by the
it
time,
came to
yeah,
me.
okay, thank you.
The next part of your section, section is about the compensation study, which has been mentioned earlier today, so I won't belabor the topic, but is it typical for an HR department to request regular compensation studies on certain cadence for municipals?
Not that I'm aware of. I think we did a salary study in 2015. It was not necessarily implemented as presented. There was some work done to it before salary changes were made, not by my office. So,
Mayor did that.
yes.
Mayor made the change.
So we,
Then,
Previous mayor.
so, you know, in looking at what was recommended, I think there probably could have been some things done with it over the next couple of years. But again, it wasn't something that was being looked at. So once again, kind of behind the 8 ball and looking at 0s or 2%, you know, now there's another study being done.
Right.
I mean, I think right now they're actually, because of the grant money that went out, there are a lot of compensation studies being done, and I think that's part of the reason why we weren't getting responses, because people are feeling inundated by the receipt of requests for salary information, because everybody got these grants and went out and found different vendors to do the compensation studies.
That's a fair point. Related to salaries, a concern I have was something that we're actually going to be voting on later tonight, something that we voted on in August, and something that we had voted on in just about 2 years ago, December of 2021, was the missing of steps for employees. Is there a reason for this occurrence? Is there a reason for its repetition? Are there any steps being taken to prevent it from happening again?
Yes and yes. Generally, my office will receive a notification from the department, you know, so-and-so is about to reach their step. I'll process the paperwork. I think we have a lot of new people in the chairs. Sometimes it's the department head, sometimes it's the admin who send it over, specifically fire, police, and DPW. I get regular emails from their admin staff to send over requests. There are notifications of step increases, and then I process the paperwork. I think we've got a lot of new staff who, you know, and new department heads who don't realize, you know, the notification, and I'm not putting the blame there. One of the things I've indicated in my memo, and I've also talked with the city auditor, we're going to put a tickler system into place to back up the notifications that I get, so that we're not running into these issues again.
Thank you. As you've been in this position for 21 years, since your prior appointment 3 years ago, is there anything that you think your department needs to improve or change upon moving forward?
Well, like I said, my staffing is kind of settled. I want to be able to shift some things over there that I've had to do, and because I didn't have the staff, I want to focus, you know, more on the things that require my attention. I get things done more timely, because I now have the time to do it, because I have the staff to handle some of those other things. And then again, I put into my memo some goals and things, some objectives that I want my department to reach. And some of that involves working with our IT director to streamline some things and make things easier, faster, better.
Understood. Those were the extent largely of my questions and concerns for your reappointment. I think, you know, this is a critical role within our city. It takes with it a large salary, a large responsibility, a large workforce that you have the responsibilities to. I think, you know, as counselors, we should be able to ask questions without any sort of conflict or it being controversial to ask questions regarding performance and service to the city.
Absolutely.
So I hope you can take, you know, the questions that we've asked here tonight into consideration, and I would entertain a motion.
I move that we recommend confirmation of the appointment.
Second. Motion made by Councilor Walsh, seconded by Councilor Taros. To recommend the mayor's appointment. Is there discussion?
I just want to follow up. I believe it was many, many months ago that part of your salary was one that was brought to the council and it had a substantial increase with it. I believe it was Councilor Walsh who did the math and said it was about a 40% increase at the time. It was very high.
It was more than the 2% that
2%
everybody else.
that everybody was
I don't think
getting,
it was
yes.
40,
But it was substantial.
I think it was 10%.
10%, okay, I correct that, 10%. You no longer, I didn't know this, you no longer now have the schools under your auspices. That was put back with the school department?
Some of it has been
Okay,
put
so
back
can
with
you
the school
just,
department.
I should have asked that, like, so have your responsibilities with the schools, has it gone down?
It's changed.
Changed, okay.
It's changed.
And did something specifically prompted that it was put back?
The payroll administrator got her degree in human resources and they promoted her into the role of human resources manager. So she's handling certain things. They've also, as indicated, they've gone to an online onboarding system. So they're not doing the paper in-person type of stuff. However, there's still a portion of that paperwork that has to be done as paperwork and that still comes to my office. I still do the health insurance enrollment and track other things.
Thank you, I apologize for not
I just
asking
want to point out
earlier.
that salary increase that was changed. The original amount was recommended by the mayor.
But it was put on hold because of the salary survey, I believe.
It prompted the salary.
It prompted the salary
Prompted.
survey, yeah.
My discussion on the vote is just that in my assessment, I believe this department has a needs improvement topic. So that's something guiding my vote this evening. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no?
No.
Motion does not pass. Recommendation.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Director Bond. Old business, status appointments by the mayor. 6/30/2023, voted to be placed on the 8/25/2023 Appointments Committee meeting agenda. More time, 8/25 and 10/2. Councilors, given that there is a Finance Committee meeting imminently, I would move to ask for more time and take up this item at our next meeting,
I agree.
so that we can have a discussion. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, anything before we close?
Not if there's more time on that one, I can take care of that one.
Fantastic. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to adjourn made by Councilor Walsh, second by Councilor Mack. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion passes. We stand adjourned. Thank you very much.